Okay, so we have 4 attendees currently. Hello, attendees. I know you guys are coming in. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes before we start this meeting, and I get tied up with this mask and my glasses. We'll be starting the meeting shortly, so just sit tight. I see there's at least 7 coming in and staff, so we'll be starting shortly. We'll just be sitting here in somewhat of silence, or we might be talking a little bit, but the meeting will start about 7 o'clock sharp. So welcome, and just sit tight. We shouldn't be too much longer. Is everybody doing well? Good. Keeping busy. Mike shooting hoops out in Indian Meadows.
One time, good basket for 20 minutes. 2 months of inactivity and that's the meeting.
It's a start. That's what they call a start, right?
Yeah. Kindness and generosity to local small businesses.
The truth. While we're waiting, I do want to thank Ron and Scott for being here today. Thank you. I think this is an important step for us, an important opportunity for everybody to really take a look at where the project is, at least from a physical point of view. I'll talk a little bit about what I've learned on the state level and through finances as we get further into the meeting and after your presentation. We do have some more folks coming into the webinar. We will be starting the meeting about just a little bit after 7, just to make sure everyone has enough time to get in. I don't see Jason. Jason, are you there yet? Jason Cuthbert? Okay. For those of you just joining, I just want to repeat that we have the board here in the room, we have our attorney in the room, we have our clerk here, and our presenters are here for the presentation on the possible new town hall. We'll be starting shortly. We want to make sure everyone has a chance to get into the meeting. And we will be going through the agenda and the presentation shortly. Some of our staff will be calling in. We also have our Director of Human Services here, Vicki Hillis, so she is in the room as well. I think Jason might have just jumped in. Jason, are you here?
Yes, I am.
All right, so our comptroller is here as well. And folks are still continuing to come in. For the folks that are there waiting, just to let you know, you come in as attendees on mute. If you wish, there's 2 opportunities in the agenda for you to participate. One is privilege of the floor. You have an opportunity to speak on any matter before the town under item number 5 of our agenda, which is privilege of the floor. And then the second time, the board has extended the opportunity for you to ask questions on the presentation of the new town hall after it's presented. What you need to do for that on both occasions, there's a couple opportunities. You can raise your virtual hand. You'll see on your control panel, there's a place where you can raise your hand and I can call on you and you can actually speak. You have to unmute yourself, however, to do that. Or you can type in a question. You'll see an opportunity there where it says questions. You could type in a question and you can send that question to the entire group, or you can send it private to me if you don't want your name associated, and I'll read the question. So you have a couple opportunities to participate in this town board meeting. So we'll be starting shortly. I do have a little bit after 7. I do see that we have about 16, 17 folks in. 36 had registered. I wanted to give everyone an opportunity. But while we wait, I do want to point out yet again, Michelle Osterlich, our county representative, is on the call with us. Michelle, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. If you have an opportunity to chime in, I'm sure we'd be glad to hear from you later in the meeting. I know last time we had some audio issues, but if you can hear me, you know, a little bit later, I'm going to be updating a little bit on county business, the town board, so feel free to chime in. We really do appreciate you being here. So folks, I have 7:02 and I'm going to start the meeting. And so we will now call the town of Glenville, what's the date? May 20th meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. As I think most of you know, tonight would have been the Memorial Day Parade, the Scotia Glenville Memorial Day Parade down on Mohawk Avenue, and it was canceled. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge our veterans and in my invocation, share just a few comments that I typically prepare for the parade each year. We in Glenville have always honored our veterans and those who gave their lives in service to our country. This year, although we may not be gathering close together, we did not want Memorial Day to pass without taking time to remember those who sacrificed so much for this nation. These men and women were called to serve a larger purpose than themselves. They relegated their own personal safety to something more important, the liberty and freedom of their fellow Americans. They fought tyrants in far-off lands, they defended helpless people across the globe, and they liberated nations. This Memorial Day, it is right that we take time to remember them, to reflect on their sacrifice, and to recommit ourselves to serve our nation selflessly. Let their example be our calling, to stand ready to defend life, liberty, and each person's right to the pursuit of happiness, and that we respect the principle that we each live our lives in accordance with our own beliefs and values. This is their legacy, and it is our heritage. We mourn their loss, and this holiday season, I ask that you take a time to remember them. We ask that God bless each of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. We ask that He comfort those who mourn that they left behind, and may He always bless this great nation. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin.
Here.
Councilman Aragosa.
Here.
Councilman Godlewski.
Here.
Councilwoman Worzbowski. Here. Supervisor Petzler.
Here. Welcome everyone again on the call. We do have, I'm going to try to share my screen with you here so you can see, hopefully you can see the agenda up. We'll see what happens. But we do have on the agenda the presentation regarding the new town hall. We then have a resolution approving the MS4 report for 2020, a resolution authorizing a purchase of police vehicles, a resolution regarding resurfacing of certain surfaces at Indian Meadows Park, and then a couple other resolutions there, and then new business. So we'll go through that relatively quickly. And again, it's on the screen. I'm hoping you guys can see the screen because I am going to share the presentation with you when we get to it, so you'll be able to see the PowerPoint as we go through it. With that, I would say, did we do roll call? We didn't do roll call.
Yes, we did.
We did do roll call. See, that's how quickly we're moving. So I'll start on town council reports. This is the first time we had everyone in the room. I'll start on my left with Councilman Galuski.
Just to let people know that next Tuesday is grievance day. There's 3 options this year under our current state of affairs. You can do an in-person hearing, a teleconference hearing, or a video conference hearing. The assessor is asking that you call ahead to schedule an appointment based on the protocols and the potential need for the technological equipment. But again, that is going on as scheduled next Tuesday, May 26th. And that runs on pretty much all day. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rosbowski.
Yes, I have a number of things to report on, Mr. Supervisor. The first thing I'd like to report on is the COVID car, the EMS car that has been going on between some of the departments in the town. That program continues to be a success. They have responded to 37 incidents since the inception at the beginning of April. And by all reports, it's working exactly as it was intended, and the departments that are participating are very much appreciative of the efforts of other departments to work together. I'd like to make a very public thank you to Rick Conley. He has single-handedly been managing the schedule, managing the charting idiosyncrasies and the different documentation things that need to happen after a call. And so I would like to say thank you to Rick because he's been putting in a lot of time with that. The next thing I'd like to report on is the senior assistance program continues. Vicki has been she just really has gone above and beyond. She's been wonderful. All the volunteers that are helping, the shoppers, the senior center drivers, everybody. The thing that's become apparent when you bring the groceries to the seniors is they miss that contact. I think they're really missing our senior center. And when my daughter and I do deliveries, it's very much a situation where they're very happy to see us. They're very pleasant. They're very, we want to chit chat a little bit. So it's obviously a big distance and all that, but it's been a very, very good program. So thank you to Vicki and all of the volunteers and drivers and shoppers and everything. It's not easy to shop these days in the market, and these people are going above and beyond and taking time out of their own busy schedules. So the next thing I'd like to just mention, a couple things. Today, I believe, marks the last day of National Police Week. So I would like to say thank you to our police officers publicly for all that they do for our community, law enforcement in general. It's been a very difficult time for them, adapting to all of the different things that are going on with this pandemic and courts being closed and all of that. And our department has, as usual, stepped up and done an absolutely stellar job with that. And I'd like to thank Chief Janik for his leadership during this time as well. This week right now, happening right now through Friday, is EMS week, the week where we pause to remember our EMS providers, emergency medical services providers, obviously something that's very near and dear to my heart. So if you see somebody who is working for a local ambulance service, or if they are a firefighter and an EMT, please thank them if you can, because especially during, like I said, during this pandemic, this is a very
Jeez, that's usually on.
This is a very trying time. It's been very stressful for us to try to maintain our own personal safety as well as that of our patients. And so if you see an EMS provider, please take a moment to thank them. I think that they would very much appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm getting a little feedback that folks are having a hard time hearing through the masks. So if you speak into the microphone, please just remove your mask while you're speaking. They're saying it's coming out muffled. No, that's okay. They got it. But they're having a hard time through the mask. So thank you. Councilman Martin.
Yeah, I just want to report, I believe there's been a final application or two to the Small Business Emergency Loan Program. I know the Local Development Corporation had a meeting last week to consider a final application. And they also received a note of thanks from one of the business persons in the village of Scotia. So I think that's been a really good program for both businesses in the town and the village. And it's good to see we're still getting some active applications, even above and beyond the amount that was originally budgeted.
Thank you. Councilman Aragosa.
Just a couple things quick. I continue to spend my afternoons helping deliver groceries in the county program that's part of the partnership with a lot of the non-for-profits throughout the county. That being said, that program is going to start to wind down over the next 2 weeks. The groups in the city are going to continue to try to implement that in the city. However, they're not capable of getting out into the town and the village custodian. So we may need to look into how we can help some of the lower income families in our town moving forward. That's something that we'd be glad to try to work on myself. Again, thank you for the police department and what they've been doing throughout this. They really are doing a good job.
Thank you. So we'll move now to an item on the agenda, which is privilege of the floor. This is an opportunity for you, the residents, to speak to the board on any matter before the town. Again, you have 2 opportunities to do this. You can raise your virtual hand and we can call on you. You would have to unmute yourself to ask a question or to make a statement, or you can type that to me or the entire group actually, if you want to type it, and we can read it and have the board hear it that way. So I'm just going to give a few minutes for anyone who may be interested in typing a question or raising their hand to let us know you want to speak. And I'll wait a few minutes because I know sometimes you might be typing. And if it comes in afterwards, we'll get back to it. But this is an opportunity for you to address the board with any questions, comments, concerns. You can unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand, or you can write a note. And no notes are coming in. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close privilege of the floor. We'll move on to the supervisor's comments to the board. We have a few, quite a lot actually. I'm not going to spend too much time actually going over things. So I know we have the presentation coming up and folks are interested in that. But I do want to just update the board on a few where we are with some finances. Jason, I think, sent all of you, our comptroller, Jason Cuthbert, filed the 2019 year-end financials with the state comptroller. And I'm pleased to report that we ended with surpluses in the town general, the town outside, and the sewer funds. We ended with slight deficits in the highway and water funds, each of which was budgeted through the use of fund balance appropriations in the budget that we already provided. Importantly, in 2019, we were able to again keep to our adopted fund balance policy and maintain the available fund balance levels between 15 and 25% of appropriations, meeting our target for the rainy day funds, which, by the way, as much as the sun is out today, it's starting to rain. Now that we're in the middle of an economic issue here, this should allow us to weather that coronavirus storm without laying off staff, reducing services, or breaking the tax cap. Over the next year or two, we may have to use more of these rainy day funds than what we're accustomed to, but the current economic climate is exactly what we built up such strong reserves for over the past 10 years. If we had not prepared prior to the pandemic, and not that we could have foreseen the pandemic, but if we did not prepare for this, we would not be in the position today to mitigate the potential harm to our residents. Solid financial planning matters, and we are proving that right now. The town is on solid ground, and it's because this board has stood steady to the policy of protecting our fund balance and saving for capital projects and for the rainy day fund, which, as I say, is starting. We did receive our first quarter sales tax check from Metroplex showing a 4% decrease or a $7,000 drop from 2019. This is from the pre-coronavirus period, however, so that does not bode well for us. The state has reported that sales tax revenue in Schenectady County has fallen about 29 to 31% in April from last year. This April drop alone would roughly equate to about a $30,000 hit to our Metroplex version of our sales tax. For 2019, we ended with $972,000 in sales tax from Metroplex. If the current estimates hold, we will end this year 15% below last year's revenue, and we would suffer a revenue loss of nearly $150,000 on the Metroplex side version of the sales tax alone. As you all saw, we did have a rating with Moody's, a call. Jason was on that call with Moody's earlier this month. They reaffirmed our strong credit rating. That's the good news. I did share with you some of the quotes they said about the town, and I want to just read some of them because they're important to what I just said about our rainy day fund. They wrote about the town, quote, "The town's reserves and liquidity are healthy and have gradually strengthened in consecutive years. Quote, strong multi-year operating performance underpinning improved cash and reserve positions. Quote, financial operations and reserves, multi-year trend of surpluses strengthens financial position. Quote, a history of conservative budgeting and strong demonstrated ability to generate operating surpluses. Quote, the town's debt burden will remain manageable given ample reserve levels. Quote, conservative budgetary management will continue to support healthy financial operations of the town as reflected in its 7 consecutive years of operating surpluses. That's something for you to be proud of. That's a great record of fiscal responsibility for the town. Now that said, they did take away our rating of positive outlook because, for the sole reason, potential loss of sales tax revenue due to the coronavirus. So generally a very well-managed town with some threats to its revenue streams due to the pandemic. And lastly, on finance, the tax cap for 2021 is nearly set with 10 months of the 12 months calculated. That is now complete. Right now, the 2021 tax cap would be about 1.8%, and that would yield about $170,000 in allowable new levy in 2021. Just 1 month ago, the tax cap was projected to be 1.97. So obviously coronavirus is taking a hit on that. If there's a similar drop to the consumer price index in May and June, then the 21 tax cap may fall to about 1.5, which would allow about 140,000 in allowable new levy. Now, I also spent some time on a conference call with Association of Towns. As you all know, I'm on the executive board, and we've been doing a lot to lobby our state and local, our state and federal, and also our representatives here from Glenville on giving direct aid to localities. One of the things, the comptroller was on a conference call with the Association of Town membership officials, and the comptroller is looking at a few things. Actually, I'm a little concerned about them. Number one, they're looking at potentially allowing for a local government bond act. Now, we've seen this with Mother Nature Bond Act. We've seen this with other things where the state goes out. This would be deficit financing to give money then to localities. So it would be all borrowed money that would be coming to localities. They'd call it the Local Government Bond Act and allow them to bond aid to the local governments. That has me a little concerned. I'm a little concerned also that the comptroller is talking about potentially allowing communities to borrow against the reserve funds. That is not aid to localities. That's borrowing money against your reserve funds. That is not going to be a good thing. Equally troubling, the state legislators are putting together what they call new revenues. We know what new revenues are. Those are new taxes, new revenues to deal with this crisis. So there's a possibility that they're going to come out with a whole bunch of new taxes on state residents to try to close some of this gap. The governor was to announce last Friday what his intentions were for local governments. The governor did not announce anything on Friday related to local government finance and aid. And so the prevailing thought there is that he's waiting to see what the federal government's going to do, and then would make his decision on what he's doing with aid. I will say one of the things that I'm concerned about, and it ties a little bit into this discussion tonight, we did come across a budget bulletin B1223 issued by the Division of Budget, and it is entitled Spending Controls. And one of the spending controls issued on April 28th by the State Budget Department was to place a hold on all local aid and grants. Agencies, it's directed, agencies should hold all discretionary local aid grants and awards until further notice. All essential or statutory payments are subject to DOB review and approval going forward. So the state has put a hold on any aid, any grant payments to the localities. What's troubling about this is they were to give more guidance within a week. This was issued on April 28th. They have not given any more guidance since April 28th. So that's a little concerning to us. So we're a little, we're going to go into some issues here, but as I said, we've got the wherewithal to manage some of them. I want to just remind folks, I'm going to update you on a few more things. I want to remind folks that we are extending our hours of operation to the public. We're going on Mondays and Wednesdays. Well, every day of the week will be 9 to 5 now. Mondays and Wednesdays, the planning department, buildings and codes, and engineering will be open. Tuesdays and Thursdays, tax receiver, assessor, town clerk, and finance will be open. Fridays will be reserved for appointments. If people can't make those days and times, they can make appointments with certain department heads and come at that point. So that will be the next phase of our opening. We did go ahead through the committee, the history committee, and cancel the gala on July 18th. That's unfortunate, but we're looking to reschedule hopefully this fall. I do want to just quickly point out, Councilman Martin talked about the special loan program. I want to thank him for his leadership on that. 14 businesses across our town received grant funding totaling $176,000, and half of them were in the Village of Scotia. So I think it was a very successful program, and I want to thank you for your leadership. And Councilman Rosbowski, you talked about the shopping program. Vicky's doing a tremendous job. I see her all day running back and forth with groceries. But I want to thank you because you've been a consistent deliverer Mondays since the beginning. And so I want to thank you for all your hard work on that. And I want to thank, although there's been so many people to thank, Carlos Teixeira for his 100 pounds of coffee he's given our seniors and our drivers as a thank you. So just very, very generous. And I want to thank you guys for that. Lastly, and then I'll turn it over, we'll get back to the meeting. I did have finally a call with the county government, or the county manager, the first call and only call that we've had with the county and any communication was on May 15th. It was a 17-minute call, and we were informed that the county manager is physically in the control room as a participant, and then it was turned over to any questions by the municipalities. That was the extent of the update from the county. Mayor Gifford asked a question, Duanesburg asked a question, and then Duanesburg asked an important question. Where are we on sales tax? Duanesburg needs to know. We all need to know. The county manager said negotiations are this year. Quote, we had a good plan, but the pandemic changes everything. More to come, end quote. I didn't hear about any plan. Nobody informed the towns that any plan was formulated. Nobody's talking to any of the towns. And then the call ended with Supervisor Thomasone thanking the county for all that they do and thank the county health commissioner or director for all that they're doing as well. And that's the extent that we've gotten from the county. So I bring that up because it's important in the conversation that our sales tax is already being figured out. Yet nobody has bothered to include the towns during this very important pandemic time of planning. And we have no idea what the plan was or is. That's unacceptable. I bring that up here because it is unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to every local leader across this county, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, an independent, whatever you are, that should be unacceptable to everybody in this county. And there's more to come on that. The county manager is right. There's more to come on that. And that concludes my comments.
Yeah, you know how I feel about the sales tax issue. I mean, that's, I don't want to get started, but I do think I feel that a letter needs to be written to the county government. I think Glenville should be a leader on this and see how many other towns want to join into that letter. And if they can't, they won't, fine, but a letter needs to be sent about this issue. It's more important than ever. I've long advocated for that. And the other thing I would say, in light of what's happened recently, I think we should emphasize and request that a short-term sales tax agreement be reached and not another 20-year agreement. It makes no sense trying to react in this current climate, in this current condition, to sales tax or revenue considerations for 20 years when the next year or 18 months or 2 years or 3 years are going to be like nothing we've ever seen.
It's an excellent point.
And to have an agreement structured for 20 years in this current climate is not, it's not going to be an accurate agreement. It's not going to reflect the condition. It's not going to reflect, hopefully, the condition, you know, several months or several years from now.
But that is exactly why a fair share that floats with you rise and fall with your collection. And a fair share would make sense.
And I agree. And I certainly would advocate for that. But since it's like I talk into a hollow shell. Even if we could get a meeting.
That would be a nice
and have the towns at the table. I know we're not legally, you know, part of it. I understand all that. But there's a legal side to this, a technical side to this, and then there's a practical, fair, and reasonable side to this. And the practical, fair, and reasonable approach would be to have the taxpayers of this town or this county, many of them are represented by towns, at that table, rather than just one municipality, the city, and the county government. That makes absolutely no sense.
Well, I agree with you, and I would ask for your help on maybe let's putting this letter together and getting it out.
Especially when the city's in a position, they can opt to collect their own sales tax revenue. They have that right as a city government. They don't even have to be a part of the sales tax piece with the county.
Right.
They can opt out.
Thank you.
Part of me wishes they would.
Yeah, well, they might. Who knows? Thank you. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the presentation regarding Town Hall. We have two folks from CSR here, Ron and Scott. They're going to be doing a presentation. Let me just get all my technical things. So we have, folks, I'm going to share the screen. I think I'm going to share the screen with you so you see you should be seeing, hang on just a minute. Can someone let me know? Jason, can you see the PowerPoint? Are you there, Jason?
Yes, I was on mute. I'm sorry. Yes, we can see it.
You could see the PowerPoint. Okay, perfect. So as you go through this, we're just gonna have to be on the same page. Can't, unfortunately. So, so right now we're on the cover. And I'm gonna let you do your introduction. You just tell me we're on a flip.
Okay. Good evening, folks. Thanks for having us. It's been a while to get in front of you. My name is Scott Wolf. I'm with CSR, our engineering construction manager for based out of Albany. With me is Ron Bagoli. He's a design architect for our firm. This conversation actually started with Supervisor Petzke and myself having a discussion back in 2018, which I'm sure you've heard bits and pieces of this right here. So I'm just recapping relative to the needs of the town hall and the functionality of this building and the local government pieces both the public safety aspect of it and the government side of it as well. So we were selected to and given a charge to perform a feasibility study. That deliverable was last June.
Hold on a minute, Scott. I'm getting everyone coming in saying they can't hear you. Okay, so what we're going to do, because I'm getting that they cannot hear you, I'm going to ask you to come here. Okay, sit here. Can one of you do that at a time?
Yeah, I was going to mention an introduction.
And then all you have to do, Scott, so we're going to bring Scott here right in front the microphone so everyone could hear. And you know how to move a PowerPoint on this? Just move the PowerPoint. So, ladies and gentlemen, Supervisor Scott Wolf.
Make sure you set your camera.
Oh, wait, the camera's got to move. Hang on. All these things we have to put up with.
You can't legislate while
I know.
Oh,
I mean, you can
I-
try.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. Apologies for the audio. Just picking up where I was commenting about the brief history of where we came from and why we're here this evening. And the fact that this discussion started in 2018. CS Arch was retained for a feasibility study, which was completed in June of 2019. And that's kind of where this presentation is going to pick up relative to the summary, the output of that feasibility study. Ron Begoli, who's with me here as the design architect, has been along through that whole process. And the information you're going to find today comes out of the inputs from the various key players within the town functions. And I know that previous to this presentation, there was a lot of discussion about the current economy and the effects relative to the last couple of months. We are cognizant of that. And I will share that there are some silver linings to it in the construction world, and we can get back to that towards the latter end of the presentation. But for this moment, I'd like to ask Ron to go through the summary of said feasibility study and what brings us to the design concept we have in front of us.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see this first slide titled feasibility study. And over the year previous to June 19th, year before that, we looked at 5 options for locating the town hall, either on this existing site or on other sites. Option 1 was some land on Dutch Meadows Lane, and the thought there would be that this would be a shared facility with the Village of Scotia. They had some land there, and we looked at that piece. It ended up being that the village was not interested in having a shared building. Option 2 is the Patriot Square site, which is a parcel behind the existing town hall being developed. And there was a parcel there that they were willing initially to offer to the town for a new town hall facility, but it turned out that the interest was not sustained to be able to do that. So option 2 fell by the wayside. Option 3 was to rebuild the town hall on this existing site. It would mean demolishing the existing building, rebuilding probably a 2-story building. And after going through the programming exercise of finding out what the needs of the building were, what the shortcomings of the existing building was, and the size that the new building would have to be, as well as parking, this site is not big enough. Even with a full 2-story building, it's just not big enough to handle all the parking needs and the building needs, as well as the difficult logistics of where does the police department and where does the town hall go when all this is being built. So option 3 was not really viable. Option 4 was similar. There was some talk of partnering to have a retail component that would help offset some of the costs, but same problems. Site not big enough, high cost, and it turned out to be economically not feasible. So we settled on option 5, which is this existing site. There's the library in between, and then there's another parcel that the town owns up the hill. And the idea is to renovate this building for the police functions and the court functions, and then build a new town hall on the other site that would house the town hall functions. That would be the least expensive version because we're just renovating this building. We're not tearing down and building new for this part of it. And then the town hall portion would be new, but it's much less than building the whole thing new. So after that was determined by the feasibility study, we had a site plan drawn up by our civil consultant, just a conceptual plan, what might that look like. On this page, you can see the existing town hall building on the left, the library in the middle, and then the new town hall building pushed forward a little bit and up on the right. This allows us to expand the parking for the courts and the police. Right now, they don't have secure fenced parking, which is a big safety issue. We would be able to provide that. We'd be able to provide the parking needed for the town hall in its separate location. And then going through to the actual conceptual building plans, we're calling the existing town hall the public safety building. This building would be renovated, and everything that's blue on this diagram is all the police functions. Right now, they're all crowded into that back rectangular piece. When the town hall moves out of its area to go into the new building, they would be able to expand and relieve some of their overcrowding and gain some additional spaces that they really need, like the training conference room. Upstairs, we would be providing, and you can see it over on the far right side of the screen is the upstairs plan. Right now, there's only one small locker room. There really should be separate locker rooms for men and women. There's a small fitness room included up there. And then where some more of the town hall departments are currently very inefficiently separated out into that part of the building, that can be reclaimed for long-term storage needs. We would be reconfiguring the lobby of this building. Right now, it's a bottleneck and it's very congested on court nights. And we would be enlarging the lobby, providing a safer way in. And expanding the bathrooms as much as we can in this plan. We're trying to keep existing walls where they are. People are moving into other offices that are already existing. We're not building a whole lot of new spaces. We're just moving things around. There is some renovation with new walls, but it's kept to a minimum to reduce the cost. Going on to the concept town hall plan. So this is an all new building, takes all the planning department, the assessor, town clerk, supervisor, comptroller, town attorney, all those functions, all those offices come over into this building. The yellow area on the plan is the public spaces, so to speak. You come in to a vestibule, into a lobby, and then from there you have a kind of your own personal space window where you can access the town clerk or the assessor, receiver of taxes, et cetera, and do your business with them. There's a pair of public bathrooms and then the council chamber / multi-purpose room on the bottom of the plan. Then in orange are all those various offices arranged around an open office area in the center. It's a very compact type plan. And the bullet points you can read: consolidates currently separated departments, provides conference and kitchen space adjacent to the council chamber. The expanded record storage would happen in the existing building, the public safety building, alleviates department overcrowding and allows expansion. And by not having to share where we are right now, this courtroom space provides greater flexibility in use for the council chamber / multi-purpose room. And we don't have a firm estimate for what those will cost yet. There's still a lot of work to do still to get to that number. But as far as a budget number of what we would be hoping to the cost for it to be, the public safety renovation could be 2.5 to 2.75 million. The new town hall, 2 3/4 to 3 million. Those are rough ballpark numbers. And as I said, there's a lot of work to do still to get to any kind of confidence with that. Is there anything you guys would like to add?
No, I was just gonna say, do you have something to add?
I was just gonna share a couple of factoids about the local market, the current market, if you will.
Okay, and then I'll go over some of the.
Okay.
Then we'll have a discussion.
Okay, so just on piggybacking on Ron's comment about the budget that had been established, that was established last year during the delivery of the feasibility study with escalation factored into it in normal times. Certainly the pandemic has changed everything, as you've heard more than once this evening. I would like to share, though, some of the silver linings. We work heavily in the municipal and public market, and the public bidding on projects such as this, compared to things like emergency services facilities or public schools. Ironically, we have seen a very, very competitive market in the last 60 days, possibly just a little longer. For me personally, it was as recent as this week, where I was just like, wow, we're kind of blown away by the numbers that we received. And what we're getting for feedback is that there's so much of an intense desire to get back to work. Everybody can appreciate that. The contracting community is eager to backlog contract work and know what they do have on their plate. So that's created a competitive advantage currently. Couple that with it's probably one of the leanest times we've seen in a long, long time for borrowed money. The prime rate is down. Folks are being fluid with money that they do have or have access to. So although it's a very negative point in time for us as a people, there are some things that can work in your favor if the timing is right. So those are my takeaways. If you have any questions, we're happy to field them.
Thank you. I'll have to take questions from there if the board wants to come back to their seats. Folks, let me get you back here. Okay, Jason, I'm going to rely on you to tell me that you now see us.
And I do.
Okay. So what we're going to do is have Scott and Ron there's going to be some conversation here, probably with the board and the folks. We do have questions already coming in. I can see. I'll get to those. I do want to just note that we do have someone from the Daily Gazette here in the room. And Steve, you're free to ask us any questions you want as well while you have them. We thought it was important to have a representative from the media here so that there was some reporting that was firsthand and not something they just heard from us or saw in a video. So we're going to encourage anybody to ask questions that they want on this. I'm going to ask everybody to probably yell. I'm projecting myself and I'm right in front of it. Please, if you have something to say it as loud as you can. If you folks can't hear it, I will repeat, paraphrase it best I can. And so with that, why don't we start with anyone on the board have any questions? Councilman Godlewski.
I have a question. One of the things, so before COVID hit, we had some meetings with some of the department heads. One of the things that kind of came up as a need was additional storage space. Current logistical plan would have a storage space over in the police, in the public safety building, and less storage space in the town hall. And we had discussed the possibility of or just kind of thought of out of the box ways to maybe create additional storage space. And one of the things that came up was, would it be possible to have a basement attached to the building? And if so, is that something where you need some like EPA compliance? Is it something, what kind of additional cost driver would that be? Or any other comments you might be able to add as far as like additional storage space? I know that we talked about a second floor, and a second floor needs an elevator, an elevator is a huge cost driver. So what about that?
A basement is not really a very good option, and Scott can speak to that a little bit more cost. Probably, if we really need to provide storage, additional storage in that building, the best way to do it would just be to build a little bit more space on that ground floor.
I'll just second what Ron said, the cost of going vertical, whether up or down, it's going to be more costly than going horizontally. Or then expanded footprint. And then you get into your subterranean, you get into the climate control issues, waterproofing yourself. We've all heard of some towns that have had floods and lost all their records. So those kinds of things to be concerned with.
So Mr. Godlewski, because somebody said couldn't hear it, did ask if it was cheaper to go to a basement type floor. The answer generally was no for a variety of reasons. There was climate control issues that were concerned, potential flooding issues. And so that kind of summarizes that question and answer.
And it just costs more than building out.
It costs more to build down than out, apparently. So that was the question and answer.
And yes, you do have to meet the accessibility requirements, no matter whether you walk or not.
And then there's accessibility issues, whether you're building up or down, you're still going to need the elevator. Anyone else have any questions out there? On the board or out on the webinar?
I still got a couple.
Go ahead.
In terms of the more storage, I think I would like to advocate for having more storage in the building. I do a lot of work in town municipal buildings, and having that storage on the second floor of building across the parking lot is going to be problematic, I think. So I would advocate for more linear space for storage, and I agree it would be certainly more cost effective just to go vertically rather than, up or down. So
Before you go on, Councilman Martin is advocating for more storage within the new facility, the new town hall, as opposed to having all the new storage in this particular building just for operational efficiency and ease. Can you do you have an answer to that, or is that just a comment?
Yeah,
Okay.
just a comment, that's certainly something that we could entertain, and when we get to the part of how much does it really cost, then, maybe how much do we want?
the other question I had, did you guys do any program development with the staff?
We met with the police and the courts departments, and listened to all their needs, and we got the town hall needs through interviewing and talking.
Because
And
again, okay, I'm sorry.
I just want to add to that, just so you're familiar. We also internally took all of what was going on with CS Arch, and we had probably 3 or 4 staff-wide department head meetings. So the staff had input, and actually there's changes made that came out of those meetings. So it's staff designed as well.
Because the reason why I asked is again, I do a lot of work in particularly planning and building departments, and there's a lot of need for layout space. You just can't have enough. Building inspectors reviewing plans, planners reviewing plans. There's a lot of document storage required of those departments, even if it's not in the long term. It's the immediate storing of records for things that are active, building permits that are active, site plans that are being, delayed with the planning board or whatever. So there's a lot of need for layout space and storage in that immediate area. And I see there was some area here for planning departments, but I just want to emphasize that as I see that in a number of town halls that I'm in, both old and new.
And I just want to point out, even though it was staff input and we had meetings, not everyone gets everything they want, including us, me, everyone else. The wish list goes against the checkbook. And so there's a balance there.
Right.
And so not everything is in that everybody wanted.
And my next comment is, I did some quick math here, so we got an 8,000 square foot building for, at the upper end of the range, 3 million, that's $375 a square foot. That seems reasonable. What's your reaction to that? I know, yeah, I work with the LA group, I know you guys work with a couple of guys, but, you know, I know that the bidding climate we're seeing is that you'd think it'd be better, and it's actually not. It continues to be upward pressure on pricing because contractors are backed up, the suppliers are backed up. Like, for example, the parking garage that's being built in Saratoga right now, they can't get their cement panels because the cement plant has been shut down. It's just started back up, and they can't bring things across state lines yet. So, you know, things are backed up. And so there's an example of a contractor who's, you know, he's just not available. He's busy. So you'd think it would be a good bidding environment, and it's actually in some ways no better and maybe even worse than it was before this. And it was pretty bad then.
I would agree with you that the supply chain is a definite factor. And as this project moves forward, we've already had discussions about honing in on the type of building materials that are not impacted or lesser impacted by the supply chain. Because you're exactly right, that in certain fields, in certain trades, they're hamstrung. And that is affecting the cost effects. When I said earlier that there seems to be eagerness to backlog the contracts, it's that itself, the contract work itself, contracted work. And then you're getting into the weeds of supply chain issues and what the relative cost is to go to that high-end finish or the high-end material. Not to say that it would be dumbed down in any way, but you may have a choice of going with a precast masonry solution versus a brick veneer solution versus an EPIS solution, things of that nature.
The supply chain question is also off too. I mean, we're not talking about if all goes absolutely perfect and this thing even goes forward, we're not in the ground until probably next spring. So I don't think we have an issue currently right now, the biggest issue. I did promise that I would talk, and I know people probably have questions out there about the cost. The estimate you saw here, I just took the mid-range, is $5.5 million for the entire project. We do have currently a $1.5 million grant, which is in its final phase, but as you heard what I read earlier, it's on hold, so we don't know the status of that, but let's for a minute play that out. $1.5 million brings us to about $4 million on the town side, and we have about $500,000 currently in capital reserve, so we're down about $3.5 million. Our comptroller ran some numbers. I'm not going to give you the entire chart, but I'll tell you, let's just round it to $4 million, just because nothing comes in cheaper. It always comes in more expensive. So I've learned that one. So let's round it to $4 million. In today's environment, we probably can get somewhere about 3% with our credit rating. So we're going to take that as a rough estimate. That would be a new $205,000 of new expense in an operational budget for 30 years. So that would be the new impact to the budget.
Say that again, 30 years.
30 years, 30 years, 205,000.
When does that, like, what I'm trying to get at, when does that begin? It doesn't begin till a year after the project is complete, right?
Well, until we borrow. So we probably would have to pay as it goes, but we're probably 12 months out from that beginning. That wouldn't be in the 2021, most of it would not be in the 2020 budget probably. So it'd be 205,000 in new spending to the operational budget at 3% for 30 years. What does that mean to the taxpayer? The average home in the town of Glenville, which is assessed at $171,000, would see a net impact of $17 a year in new levy on their home. An average village resident would see, with an assessed average value of $116,000, about $12 in new levy on their home just for this. We could structure the debt. Now, if we get to this juncture, and again, I want folks at home to understand, nobody is advocating for anything. There's no one advocating for or against this project right now. We're exploring it. We're in a very different place than we were 3 months ago. We've been going through this for 2 years, and we're in a different place. So we're looking at it, but we can structure debt also in a way to get us through the current crisis. And so what we can do is structure, as you all probably may be aware of, mortgage situations where you can balloon out a payment or something. We could take the first few years and then pay more in the back end years. This would allow us to schedule the increased payments for 2027 and 2028. Why that's important? Because we will make final payments on our existing debt in 2026 and 2027. So we would really be without debt in 2027, and this would allow us to feather this in with very little impact, if any at all, to the residents at that juncture. The current crisis notwithstanding, structuring the debt, if we want to do that anyway, would allow us to remain tax cap compliant. One of our principles here, I know the majority of the board, I can't speak for everybody, the majority of the board is to stay under the tax cap, whether we do this or we don't do this. We will not do it in a way that makes us break the tax cap. So I just want everyone to be aware where we're at the finances as they stand today, and what that impact might actually be to you over the next 30 years. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I just had one last one. I don't mean to go on, but I was wondering if there was any consideration of a design build approach to executing the project.
We haven't really explored the different delivery methods just yet. We are traditionally a plan inspect firm.
Right.
We offer construction management services as well as engineering in our firm. We have not delivered a building like this way as a design build option in recent years. It's something that we would have to look into before the town ultimately decided which way they want to go.
If you can just loudly, Jim, explain what a design build option is.
Well, the architects are here, so correct me if I get anything wrong. But as I understand it, it's basically we go out with a general specification of what we desire, and the bid includes a design element to it. So it's designed and built by the prospective bidders. It's better for them in that they understand what they're building better, and it usually results in a more or a less expensive price. Usually, that's my understanding. I'll let you correct the details on that, but that's my basic understanding. I think where it does help.
It can become very different when you're talking about a box store versus a custom home and everything in between. The commodities market can have a big impact on the net result of that is, meaning that some things could be dumbed down or cheapened up a little bit if the market is hurting the contractor at that particular time. If it's not, we go the opposite way, it's future comforts that you never thought you would or otherwise. So it's a timing thing.
And it's also a good idea to have a very good construction inspector.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's true under any.
And that's where I'm going with that. No matter what you do, you want to make sure that the mechanisms are in place to have the checks and balances throughout the course of the project.
Because I'm aware of a township north of here that had an absolute nightmare. One of the cost-cutting measures they employed was they had their building inspector do the construction inspection. Yeah, awful. It was a very contentious end result.
I want to give an opportunity for anyone on the call. If you have any questions or comments at all, please send them in, raise your hand, write them in. Anyone else have any other questions or comments about where we are yet? Well, yes, Steve.
What would be the design life of the new building? And if the town needs to expand it somewhat in the future, are there any constraints up there that would keep the building from being expanded?
We have to locate it carefully. It is on the slope of the hill, right? So it would be difficult to expand up the hill probably. Not that it couldn't be done, but it would probably expand to the south.
So the question was, would the new project, the new location allow us to expand in the future? The answer was yes, but we'd have to be careful in the design to make sure that that was an opportunity in the future.
On this building, I mean, this building, I'm not sure was built the last years and years ago. If there are no major structural improvements being made, what's the realistic life of this building after completion?
I couldn't tell you the number of years. There's nothing structurally wrong with the building. We would, as part of this renovation, we would be replacing some mechanical systems, most likely. Some electrical systems possibly. Those are the kinds of things that you need to redo every so often. The building should stand.
Steve asked a good question. What is the life expectancy of this building if we put money into it, since we have some significant problems with it? I think what we have found, and the answer was, it's structurally, it's a fairly sound building. I mean, it's built pretty solid. And I think that was one of the problems with taking it down, was how expensive. What I think we've uncovered is this used to be a movie theater with a floor that used to pitch up, 2 floors that used to pitch up. And apparently that's been all filled in with concrete. So that would be a very expensive undertaking to take out. The building is, and this really feathers into another issue. The building is in good shape as far as the bones are concerned. We have terrible situation with our mechanicals. I think Linda can attest to that. The heating and cooling is shot. It needs to be redone. So the point to that is, if we were to stay here, and that's an option, there's deferred maintenance into this building that we'd still have to spend. So it's not a cut and dry, should we spend the $5.5, $6 million, whatever it is, on something new and get what you need and have the future really addressed. But do we spend $2, $3 million on this building and address some of the issues? We have to address storage. There's no question. And it might be that we have to go rent a storage locker somewhere. Not ideal, to the reasons that Councilman Martin talked about. We're not going to keep running to some storage facility to get our stuff all the time. We have to address storage. We have to address safety and security, and actually now more than ever, we have to address it. One of the things we're struggling with here in Town Hall reopening is the physical distancing issue. It was talked about a little bit. Our front hallway is a bottleneck. I think my hallway is bigger at my house. It is a bottleneck. People are jammed together. It's unsafe. It's unsafe before Corona for our officers to be in that situation as folks are coming in and being screened through the screener. We don't know how we can open court up and put them through that bottleneck right now anytime soon. Operationally during the day, we have quite a big flow coming through there, and it just isn't, it doesn't accommodate a town of 30,000 people and the growth that we're seeing. So there's going to be something we have to do at some point anyway. And I won't even get into right now the police department issue. Ron touched on it, but it's unsafe for our officers in prisoner transport. It's unsafe in the booking area. There's a number of workspace issues we have there. So what I want everyone to understand what I'm thinking. Something needs to be done. And what that is, we're open to discussion on. But it's a question just like your own house. You're sitting in your own house, and do you put money into something and it may not make sense, or do you just build new type of thing? And that's what we're going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks or so. The crisis we're in certainly has an impact on it, but I think long-term, I've always thought long-term when I plan things. And so it's not just for today, but for me, it's for years after I'm well gone. But it's something I want us to take a serious look at. Anything else from anyone else? Gina?
First, thank you very much for coming out and presenting this to us. I know it's a little bit unorthodox, but I'm glad that you were here. I think it's important for the residents to be involved. Just a couple of points I wanted to make, Mr. Supervisor. Some may say this is not a good time for us to move forward, even exploring a project like this. But one of my beliefs, as I've been on the board for 10 years now, has been before I make a decision on a project, on a course of action, on a budget, on anything that we vote on, I feel like it's really important for us to spend the time and thoroughly explore all of the options so that we can make a decision based on all of the facts. So I don't feel particularly either way yet. I haven't made my mind up, but I do feel strongly that for us to make a good decision for the town, not just for today, but for 30 years from now, I think we have to keep moving forward and exploring all of the options that are available to us. I also feel very strongly that while it may not be possible now, that we need to make sure that we involve the public as much as we possibly can to maintain transparency with them and to hear their input, hear their concerns, and build a town hall, because really anything that we do is going to be for the residents. It's going to be for the people who live here now and in the future, to serve their needs and to provide them with the town government and the town administration that they pay for. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you. And I think to that point, you're absolutely right. We've talked about doing these webinars. We'll do some more when we have these discussions. They're difficult. I understand that. It's where we are right now, but we're not going to make a decision until we have an ability to sit down and have people in the room and have a conversation as much as possible with the residents. So this isn't anything we're making decisions on tonight. We do have a clock ticking. That 1.5 is probably at more risk than we all like to admit right now. And so we have to balance that. And that's why we're kind of moving this forward at this juncture. Anything else?
Was there any questions on there?
No questions on there.
I have a question.
Yes.
A couple of questions. The stormwater management area, what would that look like? Would it just be kind of like a rock ditch, or is it possible? My question is more along the lines of, is it possible to kind of make an aesthetic area, make it more like a pond setting, something along those lines?
Yeah, it should be possible. It could be a depressed area that has water, maybe a fence around it.
Sure. Other question, as far as the way the buildings are situated, with town hall currently closer to the street than the library and police department, would there be any difference in cost if that building were to be moved back further to line it up with the three buildings? I know when we met as a committee before this all started, the idea was for town hall to be a little closer to the roads, a little exposed, but just as far as kind of looking at options. What, from a cost perspective, change anything?
No, it shouldn't change anything from a cost perspective, but getting back to the point about expansion, it may help to have that building stay far enough to allow it to expand.
But if there is expansion in the future, if Ron said to go south, that's currently shown as parking area, so that can be reconfigured.
Okay.
So anyone else have anything? I'm doing one last call over here for these folks. See if anyone has any comments, questions. And for the people on the call, I want to let you know the board is interested in hearing from you. I think something just came in. We do want to hear from you. We do want to know what your thoughts are. Let me just see if I can get this question. No, thought it was a question. Sorry, I got excited. Anybody else have anything? Earl, do you have anything?
No, not right now.
Vicky, anything? Vicky's been part of the process as well. So I want to thank you guys. There's nothing coming in here on the web, so
Thank you.
yeah. And next steps, well, I think next steps, the board has to digest this. We'll have a work session in June, which is June 10th. is a work session. And so I think at that work session, we should know a little bit more about where we are with state finances. And, we'll probably have a conversation with the board at that time. You're welcome to be here. I don't think there's anything new that you would have to present, but if you want to be here for the discussion, you'd be welcome to. And we'll just keep this moving and see where we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you leave, you could just unlock the door, leave it unlocked. I know one's gonna come in. So we'll go back to the agenda meeting. We have resolution 8, approving the MS4 report for 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is a resolution that approves the MS4 annual report for March 2019 to March 2020. And this is the report that Tom Capola presented to us at the last meeting.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa? Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 9, authorizing the purchase of police motor vehicles. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is the purchase of 3 vehicles for the police department. This is at the recommendation of the police chief for 3 marked vehicles that will replace 1 2019 Dodge Durango that was totaled in a motor vehicle accident, and 2 Ford Interceptor sedans, one 2016 and the other one 2017. And what will be purchased is 3 new vehicles at a price of up to $36,000 for the necessary equipment, and this is part of the 2020 adopted budget.
Thank you. One of the things I want to point out is this was a negotiation with the department. I've been working with department heads on all projects, purchases as well. We had approved 3 vehicle purchases in the budget, plus then we had an accident, so there'd be a 4th vehicle. The chief has agreed to drop 1 vehicle out of the approved budget and just get 3 this year as one of the mitigating cost impacts we're having. So I want to thank him for that. I know it's not easy to give money back, but he recognizes the situation we're in, and I think this is kind of the start of conversations with all our budget, with all our department heads. So thank you, Chief Janik, for that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 10, which is authorizing to enter into a contract regarding court resurfacing at Indian Meadows. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. I do want to, and I think it's a technical amendment on this, Mr. Redding. It says in one of the whereases, Schenectady County will contribute $40,350. That's not accurate. It's a federal grant that flows through the county, and I think that ought to be mentioned in the resolution. It's federal money that goes to local parks, so it has to go through the county. But I think we need to be clear with that. I don't think we need a resolution to change that. That's just a technical amendment.
I mean, you can make an amendment.
Make the amendment anyway.
Yeah, you can just propose an amendment.
All right.
You can propose an amendment, it's probably easier.
So I just am proposing, just for clarity and so accuracy and everybody knows exactly where money's coming from, I would like to insert federal funds administered through that phrase to be put in front of Schenectady County. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it as amended.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, amendment passes. So now we are in resolution 10A as amended. This is a resolution that would authorize us to get into an agreement with the vendor to resurface the basketball and tennis courts in Indian Meadows Park. This has been a priority among our town, our park planning commission, and within our park planning system improvements. The town board has concurred with this recommendation from the commission. The Director of Human Services developed the proposals, and the lowest bidder was, is it Louisi Asphalt Services in Albany for $65,927.15. As we just talked about, Schenectady County through the federal grant will be providing $40,350, and our expense will be $25,577, which was budgeted in the budget. As the board remembers, and some of you may have recalled that we went through some of the capital projects. We have about 15 total capital projects. Some are getting delayed, some are getting moved forward. This is the one of them that we decided made sense to move forward for a couple of reasons, but mostly because of the grant component to it, that it made sense to capture the grant funding in order to make this happen. We've been trying to do this for years, and so this grant funding has made that possible. Any other questions or comments?
For clarity, the tennis courts that are being refurbished, they're the ones when you first enter in the tennis center.
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Like all of our existing, fantastic, even better.
And that was the other discussion was, should we just do one right now? But you get a little bit of a scale of savings if you did the whole thing. So it made sense. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa? Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 11, approving town board minutes for May 6th. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, pro forma resolution, it does approve the minutes from the last meeting, May 6th, and I would thank Mr. Staff.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 12, approving the monthly departmental reports for April 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved in second. Any discussion?
Again, Mr. Supervisor, this is one of our current resolutions. This would approve the department head's monthly reports to us through email through the month of April.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Thought I saw a question come in. So with that, we're on to new business, and I'll start on my left with Councilman Godlewski.
Just to, this is a little bit hypocritical, taking my mask off and say this, just to remind people to remain vigilant, to keep doing what you need to do during these very difficult times. And I think, you know, some of the comments here tonight about how the coronavirus and the current pandemic is really changing everything. It's reshaping the way we live life. That's what we used to know as normal. Remember that the mask is not, you know, a cure-all. Still, when you're at a grocery store, you're out in public, have the mask on, still try to adhere to social distancing. And, you know, as Gina pointed out, seniors feeling, when we go to what we've gone to the supplies, feeling, you know, just being happy to have kind of human companionship. I think everybody's feeling that, you know, I'm feeling it. We miss the sense of normalcy. So we're all in this together, we'll get through it, and, you know, here, safe travels and good returns, that's all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Wozzachowski.
Nothing.
Councilman Martin.
I just want a couple of things. It was very gratifying to hear the Moody's report. Some of those comments were really gratifying to hear, and that's no small feat. And I think that's quite a record that's been established. And the other thing, I have a suggestion for Steve. I enjoy the daily reports in the Gazette about the COVID outbreak regionally. I would urge you to also, in doing so, cite the populations of the respective counties and the relative impact. I think that would be very informative for people and very revealing. A little extra work and it'd be that much more informative.
Never would be that hard.
Yeah, I do it every day, so.
Thank you. Councilman Aragosa.
Just to echo Mike's sentiment about the mask and all that, please continue to support your local businesses. but respect the rules when you go there. They have their rules because they need those rules to maintain their ability to sail. Try to remember that. It's complicated. I know, you know, it's not comfortable to wear the mask all the time. That being said, as a guy who spends probably 8 hours a day at least with a mask on his face, you can do it if you have to. And you know, respect the rules. That's respect the owners of the businesses, so they can maintain their ability to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. We did get a question that came in late. It says 8:09, but it just came in, so I apologize, Bill. Will the proposed plan allow expansion of the library? The library is county-owned in Schenectady County, and so it's not part of the project. I will say, and Councilman Godlewski was part of this effort, we did reach out on a number of occasions to the county asking if they wanted to be part of the program. They weren't. I think I would say our timetable and their timetable didn't line up. They have how many libraries? But they have a capital plan.
Number of libraries. One of the things that was discussed was during the meeting that Chris and I were part of was that there is grant funding. You know, the county has been fortunate to receive grant funding for some of the library rehabs that they've done. I think the most recent one was done in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Schenectady. It's something that I think, you know, based on the way I gauged the meeting, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, there seemed to be some level of openness there. Just not might be something, the timetables just aren't aligned. But I know from my perspective, and I'm sure from Chris's perspective as well, there'll still be continued advocacy to get us improvements to our library, because that could use them as well.
Yes, and I wish I could go back to the presentation, but it'll be too hard to do, so I won't. But if you look at the site plan, and we'll put it on our website, it is being designed in proximity to the library to allow for future connection. One of the things I would like to see is the library and the town share space. A community room, for example, would make a ton of sense. We would both save a lot of costs. We would both, you know, be able to use the facility. We would connect the buildings. So it is being designed with a potential connection someday, but it's going to have to be on the county's capital project timetable. So we're ready. If we do this, it will accommodate it. I don't see any other questions. My only closing comment is I want to thank the folks who took time to come on to this webinar. I know it's awkward, it's goofy, it's difficult. We're working on it in here. We've got to do some of our sound system, and I'll be talking with vendors on that. But stick with us. I cannot emphasize this enough. We really want to hear your input on this. It's an important project. It's probably the most important as far as money we're going to spend. It's probably the biggest project in my career here so far, and I've been here 12 years. So I do think we definitely want to hear from you. So please don't be shy. Please engage us on this and continue the conversation. And we'll continue to bring all the information we can to you as it happens. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
A second?
Second.
Moved in second, and all in favor?
Aye.
We're all adjourned. Thank you.